Scammers, hackers, Ponzi schemes, shitcoins, NFTs are all making people trillions of dollars. Honestly, there is so much wrong in the current condition of the crypto market, and today we're going to talk about the dark side of the crypto space. Not only are we going to discuss the problems with it, but we'll also talk about some of the solutions that need to happen to fix some of the very major issues that is facing crypto's ability to continue scaling and slowing it down from its true overall potential. Now, the whole overall potential of the crypto landscape might seem huge and confusing, and that's because there's a lot to it. But if I had to break it down simply for all of us to understand, it would be like thinking about the internet or the applications on our phone, but decentralized. But with this utopian-like crypto ecosystem will of course come bad actors, at least in the early stages that we are in today. And these bad actors are just people that really want to take advantage of the situation, but at the same time, very unregulated space. So before we get to the solution of how to solve for these bad actors, let's talk about the bad actors that we have today. And the first, probably most common and easy to spot actor are the scammers. Millions and millions of scammers, or at least fake accounts, have moved to scamming in the crypto landscape, mostly because it's hard to understand and is considered a hot industry to be in. And the older brother to the scammer is the hacker. He's a little bit more experienced, he knows what he's doing, but at the same time also sees some really big potential in the crypto space, mostly because wallets and exchanges are kind of easy to crack, at least in these stages. But not only that, but it also drives hackers to seeking to get into these wallets is because the crypto that's in them is easy to transfer around and can be used on the dark web, which then makes it nearly impossible to track. Meanwhile, there's an undocumented and unprecedented amount of fiat that's been stolen over the decades and really centuries that it's been around. I mean, just considering all the money that's been hacked from major banks or financial institutions, the amount of crypto stolen by hackers is just a drop in the bucket. But it definitely makes sense why hackers are moving to crypto, because most major banks and financial institutions have their money nicely locked up and of course insured by the FDIC as well. And if someone were to hack them, they're definitely going to look into and investigate who these hackers might be. But in the crypto space, it may or may not happen. Now, of course, if we have scammers and we have hackers, how can we forget Ponzi schemes? A famous one to remember, if you don't, was BitConnect. And essentially, it was a crypto lending platform which sounded really unique to its day, was promising returns upwards of 40% per month. It's kind of funny to say that out loud now, but people really bought into it. And at the time, it really did seem like the gold mine or the future of crypto. But at the end of the day, it was just a really big red flag. I mean, a guaranteed 40% a year should get you scratching your head, let alone 40% per month. Now, this next one is my favorite to talk about, and that is pump and dumps and shitcoins. This has been around for quite some time. I mean, if you remember the Wolf of Wall Street movie, penny stocks, or the shit companies at the time, have just been rebranded in the crypto space. The only thing that's really changed is because of social media, it's now a lot easier to develop a following and then send that following like Telegram messages or Discord messages about a particular stock, have them buy up the stock. Meanwhile, you have already held the stock and now you're just selling shares left and right. And voila, you've just fabricated millions of dollars into your own pocket while siphoning out money from your beloved community, which is absolutely awful. And that is why this one is really easy to avoid. Just don't join these sketchy groups. Always do your own fundamental analysis and know that I'll never shill out to any of these projects. So you can hit the subscribe button down below. So that way you have someone that you can trust in this space. Now, before we talk about the solutions, the last one on our list is NFTs. And NFTs are somewhat hard to nail down which ones are the scams and which ones are actual valuable projects, because some of them actually do have some potential. But honestly, with how new and shiny this space is right now, most NFTs are overpriced, and not just like a little bit overpriced, massively overpriced. But others, maybe even ones that haven't been developed yet, have a ton of potential. Personally, I don't buy anything with a crazy valuation behind it. And if you do plan to get into this space, and if you haven't already, buying something at a low valuation and early on into a project, even if it doesn't blow up, is almost always better than buying a project in its later lifespan. Not only are you paying an insane premium, but if that project crashes to zero, you've lost all of your investment. But on the inverse, if you buy something that you actually like and it's not super inflated in price, and you're not just buying it because of the hype, you're buying it because you love it, that is usually something that remains valuable going forward. So the biggest piece of advice I could give to you is avoid projects with no forward-looking goals. Find projects you actually like, and maybe ones that do have a cult-like following, but the prices haven't been inflated to exorbitant amounts quite yet. A big thing to look for when looking for a good project is project backing. What you want is giant partnerships already invested into that particular project. And something that I think not a lot of people are looking for is a very unique use case, because many NFTs are gonna likely go to zero or just become a tax loophole for the rich. But now that we finally discussed the dark edges of crypto, what do we need to do to actually solve for this in this space? Well, unfortunately, as much as I myself and others like me hate regulation, it's necessary. Of course, not all regulation needs to happen at once, and honestly, it shouldn't, but regulation should happen, and it should happen slowly as we see these little tiny black holes like scammers or NFT projects that are completely corrupt, and we should attack those and make examples of them to help address that issue for the future. Now, the closest example that I could think of that made a lot of sense was kind of like making a video game and trying out the video game before launch to make sure that there are no bugs in the system, and then patching those bugs if there are. Think of the crypto scammers, hackers, NFTs, things like that as the bugs and the glitches in the particular video game, which is the crypto ecosystem. And I think that is the best way to stop these bad actors at the same time as not over-regulating to slow down innovation. The thing about innovation is it won't go away, it will just slow down and then move to another country, but that is bad for our own economy. And so if we want to keep innovation going, we need to let these projects flourish and then target and demolish the bad actors within it. Remember that there are so many use cases for crypto and blockchain technology, just like there has been for the internet over the last 20 and 30 years. The same big time innovations will happen with crypto, including the very same thing that happened with a lot of the companies that were around in 1990s and 2000s that existed on the internet back then that aren't around today. But the ones that do end up prevailing and winning, like Amazon, Apple, Microsoft, Google, and so on, those became huge names that we're all familiar with and most likely use every single day. And crypto will have the very same thing happen, but more than likely on a much bigger scale. So I hope you got value from this video, and if you did, YouTube thinks that you might enjoy these two videos as well.